We're talking about a concept, okay, which is a very strange concept, and the concept is really something that the Zohar calls it Yichud Ilah versus Yichud Tata. What does that mean? Upper unity, lower unity. We say the Shema, when we say the Shema, that's called upper unity. When we say, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one, that's called upper unity. When we say Baruch Hashem, Kavod, Malchut Olam Bo'ed, we have to say it in a lower voice. Blessed be his name, whose glorious kingdom is forever and ever. That's called lower unity. And the question is, what do you need that for? Listen, we're always talking about the oneness of God, and God is all there is. And yet here comes the Zohar and tells us that the mitzvahs that we do, this mitzvah that we do twice a day, that we accept the yoke of God's sovereignty, we accept God's rule over us. It's almost like a twofold kind of thing. It's kind of, we meditate on the hero Israel, and then we also say, blessed, Baruch Hashem Kavod. Okay? And if you look in the Parsha that we had a couple weeks ago, which was Moshe Rabbeinu's address to the Jewish people, so it was just said Shema Yisrael. It said, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one, and you shall love Hashem your God. It didn't have the blessed be his name. And we learned, who did that come from? Yaakov Avinu. Yes. Jacob, right? Yaakov, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, right? Yaakov Avinu said that line on his deathbed when he was heard from his sons, his children, that we're all on the team, Dad. We're all in the club of God is one. Yes. Okay? That's our mission. Okay? And then here comes Yaakov and he adds this one line. Moses, in last week's Parsha, did not add that line. Okay? Just said, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is the God, the Lord is one. And then it went to love your God. Do me a favor, do you know how to adjust the AC? Okay.
It just started to get cooler.
Did it?
Yeah, it was hot 5 minutes ago, but it's picking up.
It was definitely hotter standing outside while this nice guy
It
was
was
trying
very
to
hot
open
out
the door.
today.
Oh my gosh.
I was just swimming.
I'm tired the whole day. I'm tired.
The water was so hot. Even after, the heat, it's like 100.
I took my dog out at 6:30. I just knew it was going to be crazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, so here we are. We have, okay, so the question here is, in our meditation that we do twice a day, right? We do this upper unity, lower unity thing, and really why? What does it mean upper unity, and what does it mean lower unity? Okay? So we have to really get that clear. I'll bring in, God willing, if someone writes a little note, remind me in case because I get caught on other stuff, what the Rabbi Nachman's take. Okay, Rabbi Nachman's approach. What is upper unity? What is lower unity? Okay, remind me, someone make a little note because I'm going to forget. Bernard, it's your job. Say, Rabbi Nachman, okay? So, okay. So I got this piece of paper here. This is the introduction, actually, that comes from this sefer right here, which is called Lessons in Tanya. Okay? So in the beginning, introduction to chapter 7, we have it. It's pretty nice, and it's going to give us the idea, the concept here. Okay? So it reads like this. Everybody have this page here? Mm-hmm. So the Alter Rebbe explained in the previous chapters that the scriptural statement, that in the heavens above and upon the earth below there is none other, ein od milvado, is not intended to negate the existence of another God. That's not the purpose of that statement, okay? Rather, it tells us that divine unity is such that there is no true existence other than God. You got to hold on to that, okay? When we say ein od milvado, and if you get it in Hebrew, it's really good. Ein od milvado, which means there's nothing else other than Him, okay? Because that is the real truth. We're not living in the true world, okay? What we think is true, and what we seem to be experiencing by our separate existence is not really what's going on. Okay? So our job is to break out, remind ourselves, free ourselves, okay? and try to always hold on to reality, the real reality, as much as possible. Okay? So, there's no true existence other than God. For all created beings are completely nullified in relation to Him and are united with Him. This is not perceived by them, by the creations, nor manifest in them, only because of what we call the tzimtzum, which is the contraction, which conceals the divine life force that continuously brings about their existence ex nihilo, something from nothing, being unable to perceive this life force. So they consider themselves to be independently existing entities. Okay? So just to go over that, okay? That he might bring it later. The imagery that we have, that we always got to keep, is the light of the sun, the light beam of the sun, when it's in the sun, is nullified and does not exist. Okay? There's the sun. You haven't been around, but we're filling you in somewhat, best we can. The light of the sun, and then we see the light. Well, now the sun's down, but we'd see sun rays coming in, and that's a sun ray, and everybody can see that's a sun ray. But if you take that sun ray and you put it back into the sun, of course, you don't experience a sun ray there anymore because you're the source, right? So, but now that's different than us in relationship to our Creator. Our Creator is all there is. All there is God. Our Creator is not something that's 98 million miles away. Is it 93 or 98? 93 million miles away, right? The Ein Sof, the light of the Ein Sof, is everywhere. So we are literally, technically, in a reality, in a state where we are like the ray of sunlight in the body of the sun, and we are nullified. Okay? That's the reality, because God is everywhere, filling all of existence, and therefore we are in our source right now. So therefore, in a certain sense, we don't exist. We become nullified. Okay? But we're not experiencing that now, and that's what he calls the tzimtzum, or the contraction, which is God's concealing, hiding. We don't look at the contraction of God's withdrawing himself, right? So to speak, as a literal withdrawal. We look at it as a conceptual. It's not real. It's really what it is hiding. Okay? So this concealment, the next paragraph, this concealment, of course, applies only to created beings, but not to their creator. From the divine perspective, there's no concealment whatsoever, inasmuch as Havaya and Elokim, meaning Havaya, meaning the name Yud Kei Vav Kei, Enokim and Elokim, are truly one. The concealment effected by Elokim thus does not act as a concealment for Havaya. In other words, God, just like we can't cover our heads with our hands when we want to say a bracha, we need a separate thing called the kippah, right? God can't hide himself from himself, so to speak. So the name Elokim is only in relationship to us, but for God, this name, this attribute, that attribute, it's nothing to him. It's all God. He is the only thing that exists. So this concealment does not apply to him. Okay? He is filling all of existence, and therefore we are nullified in relationship to him. So the Alter Rebbe will now explain how the above enables us to understand the teaching of the Zohar, that Shema Yisrael is higher level unity and Baruch Shem is lower level unity. Were divine unity merely to signify the existence of one God, it would be impossible to speak of higher and lower levels of unity. In other words, what do you need it for? Okay? According to the above explanation, however, that divine unity means the nullity of created beings and their unity with God. It is indeed possible to speak of two diverse levels of unity. Okay, so here we're going to get into what? Two levels of unity. Okay? And that's what we're doing when we say the Shema, and then we say Baruch Shem. We're going to go from one level of unity to another level of unity. And how do we look at that? In this sense, higher level unity refers to the divine faculty of creative speech, otherwise we known as Malchut. You know, we have our mouths are considered to be the Malchut of our heads. It's the lowest orifice. If you look at how we have 7 orifices in our head. In the Sfirot, we have 7 lower Sfirot. You have, just like 7 lower Sfirot, you have Chesed, you have Gevura, you'll have Tiferet, you'll have Netzach, Hod, Yesod, Malchut. So also we have 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nose, and 1 mouth. Okay, you know they ask in the Gemara about 2 mouths. Why 2, 2, 2, and not 2 mouths? One for holy speech and one for mundane speech, right? Should have 2 mouths, right? Why didn't God make us with 2 mouths? So then the answer is?
Because we get into enough trouble with just one.
You bet. Exactly it. Imagine if you had 2 mouths, how much trouble we get into.
You're supposed to listen twice as much as you can speak.
That's the very, very, what do you call it, practical approach.
Jim Brown.
Okay, so the idea really is our speech, okay? We know that God created the world with speech. He made utterances, and he created the world. And those utterances constantly give every single thing its animation, its existence. Why did he do it with the speech? So I heard one answer. Why didn't he do it with thought? And God thought this, and this came to being. Why did he use speech, okay? So obviously it's for us, because it shows us that something coming from the hidden, i.e. the mind, the thoughts, being manifest, something expressing. An expressing of potential and an expressing of thought, okay? So the higher level unity refers to the divine faculty of creative speech, otherwise known as Malchut, like the mouth, considered at the stage in which it is still found within its source. By way of analogy, the seminal letters of a person's speech are first encapsulated within his thought and emotions, which will ultimately be responsible for his subsequent speech. In other words, usually, hopefully, for most people, some people don't think before they speak, okay?
Why'd you look at me?
No, you know, I took a course. I had a course in reading the face, reading people's faces. Okay, it's also in the Zohar, but I took the one from California, which is completely different, right? So they would you'd be able to see the profile of a person if their forehead was protruding above their mouths. That means they think before they speak. But if their mouths and their foreheads are back, like their mouths are out here and their foreheads are back here, that means they speak before they. That's the predominant behavior. But you know something? I threw the whole thing out at the end.
Sounds a little like eugenics, but okay.
I don't know what that means. What is eugenics?
Like looking at people's heads and telling all about them from their head shape.
Well, they do that. They have that, right? But they had this rule. Even in this course, they had this rule: choice overrides. They always would say that, choice overrides, which means a person's free will can override any of that stuff. So I'm like, it does. So then I threw the whole thing out. Because people change, you know. You accustom yourselves to think before you speak, so things are different, right? For most part, okay? But the idea really is we think, and that thinking is in words. And then we express those words. So before they're expressed in words, they're thoughts, but that still in the thought, there's a series of letters, okay? So that is what we're going to call upper unity. In other words, we're dissolving, when we say Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, we're dissolving into the mind of God, okay? We're completely nullifying ourselves to absolute nothingness, into the level where it's in the level of creative speech that has not yet left its source, which is in the mind. Okay? In other words, you're in God's dream. Shema Yisrael. So, I always, Rav Nosson explains what's the idea about Shema Yisrael. Why do you have to need that? This is like the ultimate meditation. Why do you have to say Shema Yisrael? Okay? It should be a blank and say maybe your name. Shema Bernard, Shema Allen, right? Why doesn't it say that? Why is it Shema Israel? Okay, so you saw the general aspect of all of us is Israel, right? So we're kind of addressing the general aspect of the Jewish people, of our own Jewish identity. But in another sense, it's like this would help you out, okay? That if something is like really novel, like a nice piece of news, like something that's a positive, like something amazing novel idea, changes your whole concept of reality. So you get to tell people about it. You go, Shema Israel, listen to this, right? So when we say Shema Israel, it has to come from that newness, okay? Of something absolutely new in us, okay? That we're like, if we want to tell, you go here, you're going to tell this guy, you want to tell this guy, you want to tell this guy. Stock tip, okay? Right? So Shema Israel, you want to proclaim it to the world. So that's when we say Shema, that's really where you have to come from, okay? Then you say Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, and you go into the oneness of God, okay? Echad, literal one. Hashem, who is our God, right? Elokeinu, which means Bal Yecholet, Ubal Kochot Kulam, which means there's nothing he cannot do. Yud Ke Vav Ke, was, is, and will be. There's nothing he cannot do. Yud Ke Vav Ke is all there is. And that is the upper level unity, where, according to what he's saying here, is we go into the place where those letters of speech are first encapsulated within his thought and emotions, which will ultimately be responsible for his subsequent speech. We're going to the primordial place where we're understanding that we're in God's dreams. Okay? The same is true above. I mean, just like us, I guess that's what he was saying. Just like we will think a thought and then we'll express. The same is true above. When supernal creative speech is at the stage in which it is still included within the supernal attributes, that's God's guiding forces, which, being infinite, are too lofty to serve as a source of creation. For the creation is inherently limited to space and time. Creation, as it exists in its source, is united with God at the higher level of unity. Its matter of nullification is then similar to the nullification of the sun's rays as they are found within the sun globe. So in other words, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, upper level unity is the sun's rays in the sun's globe, completely nullified in the source. You don't exist. You go out of existence. Okay? That's all, God is all there is. You don't exist. The walls don't exist. Around you doesn't exist. And the heat of this room doesn't exist. You have to work on that one. Okay? When, however, the divine creative power of speech, or malchut, after undergoing a process of tzimtzumim, which means contractions, it descends to a level at which it is able to serve as a source for creation. It's able to serve now as a source of creation. Before it couldn't. Then the term lower level unity applies. Created beings at this level cannot be said to be completely and utterly nullified. For inasmuch as this level becomes the actual source of created beings, they must perforce have some measure of identity in relation to it. Although this level too is pervaded by the Ein Sof light, which means the light of the infinite, which unites with the divine faculty of created speech, this unification is nevertheless one of lower level unity. In other words, what are we understanding in this paragraph about lower level unity? As we're going to see in a little bit, that it's already been expressed, but it's still in the level of, it's called the source. It's our source. We have to ask who we are now. Because don't forget, he said, if we were to be aware of our source, the source of our being, in other words, that creation that Hashem uttered, that utterance that God made, if we were to be aware of it, we wouldn't be experiencing ourselves like this at all anymore. Okay? But for some degree, it's a nullification, but it's a lower level nullification. There's higher level nullification, and then there's a lower level nullification. Okay? That's what this lower level unity is. This is like, yes, it's undergone a process of tzimtzum. It's descended from a level. It is the source of creation. The created beings at this level cannot be said to be completely and utterly nullified. There is some kind of semblance of existence, okay? But it's like more, it has a leniency towards being nullified, okay? There's some measure of identity. Although this level 2 is pervaded by the Ein Sof, it's so connected. This unification, nevertheless, is a lower level unity wherein created beings are seen to have some measure of existence, albeit a nullified form of existence, but existence nonetheless. Albeit a nullified form of existence, but it's an existence. In other words, there's two kinds of existence. There's no existence. We go out, and when we say Shema Yisrael, there's no existence. And then there's somewhat of an existence. But in either case, you're both nullified. In either case, right? There's something called completely nullified, and then there's a nullified existence. Shema Yisrael is number one, higher level. And this is a meditation. This is when we say, this is what we understand. And we're going to understand how through his words. Okay? So we have a concept of a higher level unity and lower level unity. And obviously what it is, if you could think about it just for a second. So, you start with Shema Yisrael, and then you say Baruch Hashem. So now, what's the trend? What's the pattern? What's the flow? How does it look like? How does it feel like? I mean, so if you think about it for a second, it seems like you're going from absolute nothingness into somethingness.
Baruch Hashem is a somethingness.
It's a somethingness. But it's still nothing like what we're here. Okay? It's a somethingness, but it's still a unity. Okay? So before we go on, just to give you a little bit of something more practical from Rav Nachman that he explains in Torah Yud Aleph. He also brings the exact same Zohar. This is upper level, this is lower level. And something much more tangible for us. Okay, instead of this is a meditation, he says that the connection you have on Shabbos is upper level unity. The 6 days of the week is lower level unity. And it fits. Okay? It fits in a remarkable way. You see, Moshe Rabbeinu, he was higher level unity. He was hero Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu, they say, relates to the guiding force of Dot. Dot is like up here in the mind, knowledge. That area of knowledge, it's up here. It's the inner aspect of Moses. And there's Moses as the outer aspect. And the inner aspect of Moses, if you could peel off Moses, you'd find Yaakov. Okay? But then again, sorry. Moses is the inner, Yaakov is the outer. Okay? Sorry. Moses is the inner aspect of Yaakov Avinu. So what do we say by that? If you'll notice, Yaakov Avinu, he's lower level unity. He's the one who said Baruch Hashem. Now it makes sense. Why does it make sense? If you go look at the parsha of Yaakov Avinu, if you go look at his life, what was Yaakov Avinu? When it says Vayetze Yaakov, Yaakov was raised, okay, he was with Esav, his brother, and then he went and he stole the blessings. And then what happened after he stole the blessings? His mother said he's got to get out of here because Esav is going to kill him. Esau, his brother's going to kill him. And then they sent him out. And so Yaakov had to leave. He had to leave Eretz Yisrael, and he went to Haran, okay, by his uncle Lavan. That whole parsha, you'll see that whole parsha. What is the whole parsha dealing with, right? The whole parsha is dealing with Yaakov Avinu. He's working. He's out in the world, right? He's getting married. He's raising a family. He's working for his uncle Lavan. He's got to deal with the sheep. Everything about Yaakov Avinu is physical. So Yaakov Avinu represents the lower level unity of what our job is the 6 days of the week. Moshe Rabbeinu is the higher level unity. If you'll know, then second in the morning liturgy, in the prayer book, when we make the prayer, in the Shemona silent prayer, you know how it starts? After we say the first three blessings, as usual, we say, no, in Shabbat, on Shabbat.
Oh, it's Yismach Moshe.
Yismach Moshe. We talked about Moshe Rabbeinu. Yismach Moshe b'matnas chalko ki eved ne'eman karasalo. Right? We say, rejoice Moses in your lot because of of the gift that was given to you, which was the Torah. The Torah eventually was given really to Moses as a gift because there's so many details in it. But we say it on Shabbat. Okay? So Shabbat is upper level unity. Shabbat is where the connection is really the way that the Kabbalah explains. There's many dimensions. We have in our tradition other dimensions. Okay? We think that it's just this dimension. No. And then there's God is all there is. But no, God kind of has to filter himself down a little bit, right? And there's entities in all of those dimensions. Okay? In the 6 days of the week, when we pray, we try to ascend in our consciousness those dimensions in the prayer, and then we come back down. On Shabbat, all of those dimensions automatically fold up into the highest dimension. Okay? It's an automatic kind of folding process where the lowest world called Asiya, making, folds into Yetzirah, forming folds into Bariah, creation, and creation folds into Atzilus. You're automatically in the level of Atzilus, upper level unity. And if you follow and you pay attention to your thoughts on Shabbos, here and there, and your feelings and things that come through you, right? If you're in alignment with Shabbos, you'll see it's like a connection like no other. Like no other. Thoughts come into you, inspiration comes to you, comes more easy. If you're not too busy with, hosting like 1,000 guests, okay? And you're busy, Baruch Hashem, with good things, right? But that's Shabbos. Moshe is Shabbos. The upper level unity is Shabbos. The 6 days of the week, that's lower level unity. Okay? Lower level unity is Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov Avinu goes out, he's getting married, he has kids, he's working for his uncle, he's in the physical world and elevating. So that is called lower level unity. Okay? When we go, and that's our job, okay? In our 6 days of the week, we're supposed to be working in lower level unity, okay? Which means, let's say, whatever it is, a person, some people are just, they want to be really holy. And, they'll reserve certain activities just for Shabbos, and they won't have it for the days of the week. Right? But we're taught that that's not so. You cannot be a total Asin and totally, only for Shabbos and only the highest and totally, ignore the world and ignore the things that go into this world. When we go down into the physical world and we operate right according to Torah principles, so then we're considered to be elevating. Okay? So there you have Rabbi Nachman's view of upper unity versus lower unity. Okay? But the idea that struck me most when I look at this is the whole idea about God concealing himself. And I just recently saw it is the whole idea of evil. What is the working definition of evil? I have many definitions of evil, but I saw that Sarah Schneider wrote in a book. It was an interesting definition, and that is what we call the illusion of separation. So you don't have 3 levels of unity here. Okay? They should have a 3rd level of unity. Like, hello, what about us guys, right? You have in the mind of God, so to speak. Then you'll have in the Word of God, so to speak. That's upper level, lower level unity. And then you have us guys here, right? So it seems like you really should have 3 unity levels. But there's no unity level for us schnucks. Okay? There's this and that. Okay? So the idea really is, the idea that God, when he would contracted himself or he concealed himself, he gave rise because he needed to give rise to free will. He gave rise to an illusion of separation. So anytime, the idea, and this is the bottom line of Shema, the bottom line is what? You are always connected, no matter what it looks like. Really, the real picture, the reality is, you are always totally connected. Whether it's on Shabbos, whether it's the 6 days of the week and you feel so disconnected sometimes, you're always completely nullified in the divine light. You have not separated from God, and we have to go ahead and work ourselves, and that's why we say the Shema, to tear away that illusion, because we get caught up. That's why you need twice a day. That's why you need it on the mezuzahs. You know, on the mezuzahs is written, the parsha. People don't even think about it, right? They'll walk in and out of a doorway. You don't have to kiss the mezuzah every time, right? It's just a custom to kiss the mezuzah. It's a nice thing to do. But you should look at the mezuzah. You should look at the mezuzah and remember what's in the mezuzah. Shema Yisrael. Okay? Meaning what? God is all there is. I am not disconnected. God, I am totally nullified in the divine light that is around me right here and right now. Okay? Can you grasp it on a certain level right now, what I'm talking about a little bit? Okay? We are not disconnected. The idea, the concept of disconnect is not a true idea. God made it to be that way. He's hiding himself. He gives the illusion of disconnect. But our task is to constantly wake ourselves up to realizing that that is an illusion. Okay? The illusion of separation, that is the working definition of evil. Okay.
So evil is
Yeah.
an illusion.
It's the illusion of separation. That was her definition. I mean, I call evil also ratzon lekabel leatzmi. Okay, there's two kinds of will to receive: will to receive for itself, for the sake of receiving, and then there's the other kind of will to receive, which is that you're actually bestowing through your receiving. Because there's another way that we do say, what did God create outside of himself that was not part of himself? Philosophical question. What did God create outside of himself that was not part of himself?
Ratzon lekabel.
Right. That's the only thing, because Ratzon lekabel has nothing to do with God. He doesn't need to receive anything. It's completely outside of his realm, of his programming, so to speak. Okay? He doesn't need to receive. So the only thing, so all of the creation is made up of this will to receive. Okay? But even that, in a certain sense, right, is an illusion, okay? Because if we were to be totally aware that we're so connected to God right here and now, it would have a completely different influence on us and a completely different hold on us, okay, than the hold that it has on us now. Because the will to receive that we have now is telling us also that you're separate, that you're separate, okay? The whole goal of this and these chapters is to teach us that no. The reality is, the real picture is, the truth is, we're nullified. We're completely nullified as we speak in the infinite light. Okay? All right. So now let's go on. Okay? I think we did this first part of chapter 7. Okay? And I think we're on...
You left off somewhere on 311.
Yes, 311. Go to that paragraph where you see the circle and the triangle down below, where it says on 311... Now, here, right here, now from the foregoing exposition. Okay? You see it? Okay. Yeah. Now, from the foregoing exposition, the verse, Ani Hashem lo shanisi. That's a great one. It's a great line. Now we can understand, Ani Hashem lo shanisi. I am God, I do not change. Lo shanisi, I have not changed. Has it? I have not changed. Okay? Ani Hashem lo shanisi. I'm just trying to find it in here. Oh, the another idea of the lower, we just have to get a clarity. We didn't speak too much about it last time. The idea also that you have to understand that space and time in a higher unity does not exist, and we are in a space-time zone right here, or somewhat of a space-time, and that lower level unity is understanding that even space-time comes from God, okay? Even those are a creation. Space-time is something that God is constantly willing into creation, space and time, okay? So, Ani Hashem lo shanisi, I am Hashem, I do not change, or I have not changed. It's a fantastic rule, okay? A verse that we say, where's the verse? It's in Malachi 3:6. So now, from the foregoing exposition, the verse I, Havaya, have not changed, will be understood. And this means there is no change in him at all. Just as he was alone prior to the creation of the world, so was he alone after it was created. This is bizarre, okay? In other words, but wait a minute, Rabbi, here I am. Yeah? But in the reality, in the real sense of it, no, you're not. Okay? I have not changed. In making a creation, even though it gives the appearance that there's something outside of me, there really isn't anything outside of me. Okay? And thus it is written, you were the same before the world was created. You have been the same, without any change in his essence, nor in his knowledge. For by knowing himself, this is a great one, there's a dynamic rule here. For by knowing himself, he knows all created things. By knowing himself, because now we're going to understand God's unity versus God's knowledge, which really are one and the same, totally connected.
Right.
There's not God and then God's knowledge. Don't think it's separate. It's not like us, okay? We go to school, we acquire knowledge, okay? Doesn't apply by him. God, in his unity, knows himself. By knowing himself, he's instantly connected to every single thing that he's created, that he's thought up, that he's thinking, that he's dreaming. Okay? He knows all created things, since all come from him and are nullified in relation to him. This is as Maimonides, that the Rambam says, the blessed memory stated, that he is the knower, he is the known, and he is the knowledge itself. All are one. Okay? He's the knower, he's the known, and he's the knowledge. This is beyond the power of speech to express, beyond the capacity of the ear to hear, and the heart of man to apprehend clearly. For the Holy One, blessed be he, his essence and being and his knowledge are all absolutely one. From every side and angle and every form of unity, his knowledge is not superadded to his essence and being, as it is in the soul of a man, whose knowledge is added to his essence and is compounded with it, right? For when man studies a subject, and then he knows it, so his rational soul was already within him. Turn the page. Before he studied it, he had a rational ability to get that knowledge, right? And then he knew it. And afterwards, this knowledge was added to his soul. So it's an addition. And so, day after day, days speak and multitude of years teach wisdom. This is not a perfect unity, but that's what's called a composite. And God, the Holy One, blessed be, however, is a perfect unity, without any composition and plurality at all. Hence, perforce, his essence and being and his knowledge are all absolutely one, without any composition. Therefore, just as it is impossible for any creature in the world to comprehend the essence of the Creator and his being, so it is impossible to comprehend the essence of his knowledge. Right? In other words, like we have the big, huge, ongoing question that cannot be, philosophical question that cannot be answered is, if I have free will, how does God know what I'm going to do in a minute from now? Right? There are two mutually exclusive postulates, rules, that everybody tries to answer. Everybody pretty much says the same words, right? And I guess in a certain sense it's okay. We live with it. But in the truth of the matter, it still doesn't come out with the right answer. You get the famous philosophical question is, we have free will. If we have free will, I can choose to do any single thing right here and now. So if I have absolute free will, how can it be that God knows what I'm going to do in a minute from now or 2 minutes? It can't be. But yet we know that he does know.
Why can't it be? Knowledge doesn't mean he's a
Because-
compulsion. So just because he knows doesn't mean he's forcing you to make that decision. That's still your power.
Yeah, but then that knowledge of him knowing, it still negates my absolute free will. Because if he really knows what I'm going to do in a minute from now, that's almost like saying it's predetermined. It's almost like saying it is set.
It's not predetermined. It's a byproduct of, we have godly sparks. We have God. We have God in us. So it's like his child. He knows. He knows. It kind of unfolds.
He knows based on whatever, on
Based
what we
on
call
being God.
what we call knowledge.
Based on-
But see, that's the point here. Here, his knowledge, right? It's impossible to comprehend the essence of his knowledge because it's within him himself. It is him, okay? So we're not going to be able to really fully, even though we all have an explanation. Everybody I ask, well, it just works like this. His knowledge is hovering over, and yet you know that you make certain decisions. No. Free will is free will. I can do what I want right here and now. He knows what but then, you understand there's going to be things that are going to happen in a person's life based on a person's decision making, right? And all of that is played out, so it gives a rise to predeterminism. Okay, I make certain decisions to do this, this, and this, and this, and there's going to be consequences of those decisions. Those decisions there's going to be consequences. If I run in front of a moving train, there's going to be consequences of that decision.
I don't know if this is so, but I have a funny feeling that we're partners with God. And so every decision we make, he's really right there with us.
The way it was told to
I don't
me,
know.
yes, that and, okay?
Yeah.
The way it was told to me is like this. And I'm telling you, there is no answer to this.
Right.
For sure.
They all told me there's no answer, okay? Even though, Rabbi, there is.
But God
They
knows
say
it.
there really isn't, okay? I'll believe that, okay? For now, okay? I can grasp everything. Yes, he does know. But then if he knows, that means I'm going to do it. I'm going to do what he knows that I'm going to do in a minute from now, and therefore that goes my free will. Okay? Now, so in any case, the idea really was the way it was told to me by when I met Sarah Schneider. I'm asking her also kinds of questions about hashkacha and things like that. And she brought down from R.A. Kaplan's book, I think, If You Were God or something. There's a little book that he wrote
Not from
down.
here.
No, not that. That's a great book.
This
Did
one-
you buy that one?
This is mine, yeah.
Great. That's my father-in-law wrote that book.
Inner Space.
Oh, yeah.
Inner
That's my
Space.
father-in-law's book. His name is in the beginning. He helped Rabbi Carmel do it. His name is Shabtai Teicher. He's in the approbations there, right, with Mordechai Tia,
Yeah.
who's his Rebbe. Okay? In any case, that's a fantastic book. That's great.
It's very
Good one. It
It's a good summary.
requires studying, but it's a good reading. Yeah. Okay? Now I forgot where I was. Thank you. Oh!
He wrote in a book.
Oh, so
somewhere,
the
in another
book, it helps because he explained it in a kind of another kind of scheme, but when she said that and I kind of grasped it, it's chess. It's chess,
Can I interrupt
It's-
here? And maybe it's.
not chess.
Have you ever read Lewis Carroll?
That's that crazy guy with the cat in Alice in Wonderland. Is that Alice in Wonderland?
Actually, the story seems like a very childrenly book, but there was
No.
a second
No.
portion to it called Through the Looking Glass.
Okay.
And it's a premise of chess. And there's this particular scene in this book where Alice hears snoring. She's with the White Queen and she hears snoring, and they go and they find the Red King asleep under a tree snoring. And it's this whole kind of concept. That's kind of why I bring it up. And she says, well, maybe we should wake him up. And the White Queen says, no, don't, because then the game ends. Because he basically controlled what's the premise of chess? You checkmate the king and that ends the game. So don't capture the king. Because she's saying in the book that we're a product of his dream. So if you wake him up, the game ends. We're over.
Bizarre.
And
I don't know what he was smoking.
Then
but
the whole
you can get me some of it.
actually he was a Christian theologian, so maybe he read some of this.
What?
I don't know. He was a deacon for Church of England. He was
Okay.
a theologist of some sort. Maybe he read this. I don't
Could
know.
have.
But
Could have.
the whole book is about that concept.
Well,
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
the same thing. So what I was, so in line of that, what I was saying was,
Chess,
we're playing chess with God. So we're free to make any move. We
Just
can
don't-
move the pawn.
Don't wake the king up, or don't.
Well,
let him-
that doesn't work in our situation. The king is wide awake, right? He's wide awake
I
and
think
he's
he was playing
dreaming.
with the concept of the dream.
It's
Are
awesome.
they-
It's an
are
awesome
they
thing. It
actual-
requires.
Because the concept is, were they actually free entities in that scene, or were they products of a dream of somebody else?
Okay, so now we're kind of getting into the same kind of thing here, where it's like in the dream you're playing chess with God. Okay,
So,
and
so free will is actually also an illusion. We have the illusion that we have free will, because if we are part of God's dream, we're not even existing.
so that's the whole problem. But we know in Judaism, it's one of the main tenets is you have free will. In other words, because we have to have responsibility, we have to own it. Okay, the whole in our dimension right now, not in other dimensions, but in our dimension right now, we have to take responsibility for our decisions. Okay, whether it's, but we can always blame God for it later. Well, you knew that I was going to do that, so why should I be responsible for it? If you knew I was going to do that, based on my pattern of behavior and thinking, so why should I be to blame for anything? Right, free will is gone. So you can't do that. That goes against the rules. The rules are you must have free will because it has to be earned, because otherwise you have the principle of the bread of shame. And we have to get rid of the principle of the bread of shame, so to speak, even though my rabbi says, come on, who are we kidding? Okay? It's, and yes, in a certain sense, it's as much as it's a game. Okay?
And
But
how
it,
do
but
you
it's
know?
but it's real.
Yeah.
Pain is real.
And how do you know that one bad decision wasn't meant for somebody else's benefit?
In the end, okay, so we play chess, and based on our moves, God makes another move. We move, God makes a move. We move based on our moves. God is
Yes.
kind of steering us. Okay, yes, there's always the upper agenda, and we talk about the upper agenda. Okay, God's upper agenda, He's going to get it all done. It's going to happen. Okay, but then there's the lower, the upper unity, and then there's the lower unity. Okay, so it's like so the lower agenda, we have to listen. There are tzaddikim when they know it's all a game, right? The Baditcha Rebbe and the Lubavitcher Rebbe, they were gone their way once, and they had to go raise money to redeem a captive. They needed to get money to get somebody out of prison, and they had very little time. And they came to a city. They had to get to the city to get to some people to get money to redeem a captive, and they got to a wall, and they had to walk all the way a distance to get into the gate of the city to get to the place, and there wasn't going to be time. They weren't going to meet the person, so the bartender says, "Okay, we're going through the wall," and he starts going through the wall, and the Lubavitcher Rebbe says, "Wait, we got time. We'll make it. You don't need." Right? It's as simple as that. We're going through the wall because they knew some tzaddikim, they're on that level. We go through the wall. Okay? And he said, no, we got time. We can walk around, we'll still make it. So, okay, they walked around. Okay? But he was dead serious. Okay? Those are people in a certain level. That's
Well, why
Yeshua.
is it not possible, if anything is possible, technically speaking?
There-
Technically speaking, I could throw every book off the shelf with just whatever to let the free mind, energy.
That kind of
confidence,
doesn't
like
work
that.
at the time, because you can't do it.
So, I
Okay.
mean, theoretically speaking, it's possible you can channel that energy.
Well, we haven't figured it out yet. Or maybe God doesn't want people to figure that out yet. Okay? Because
Not certain people don't need to figure it out.
I haven't met anybody who can really do that. Okay?
Yeah, like, which friend was it? The one who said, the one who told the oil to burn will tell the vinegar to burn. Which one was
Right,
it?
that's Rabbi, now I forgot.
No.
Chanina ben Dosa.
Hanina ben
Rabbi
Dosa.
Chanina ben Dosa says the vinegar should burn.
Yeah, right.
Let he who says that oil should burn, vinegar burn. So they should let it and it burn. Okay? They know it's all a game. They know it's all a game. They know it's all a game. But they want to stay by the rules as much as possible. Because we have to hide. Okay? So the idea really is based on our moves, God will make moves based on our choices. In the end, it'll be checkmate anyways. Oh, you beat me, the king says, right? And then you're going to be sitting, did he let me win? And we don't want that. You don't want that. No. It's got to be real. The tzaddikim play hardball with God. They play hardball. They don't want handicaps. And when they play tennis with God, as the Rabbi Zahavi Green would always bring this imagery of playing tennis with God, he's got to give you a handicap because, he's going to serve and you're not even going to see the ball going by. So he's got to give you a handicap. But, the real righteous people, they don't want to play with a handicap. They want to play real. Because you know why? I got to give it my all from me. Okay? And it goes on the effort. Okay? It's all about the effort that we put forward. We play, but we have the ability to move, and then somehow in the lower level, we talked about this on Thursday night. There's a lower mazel and there's a higher mazel. There's a lower level mazel. You could do 3 things to change your mazel. You could change your place, your name, and your deeds. But there's certain times you can't even change it. There's certain times you can't even change your mazel. There was a Rabbi Elazar ben Padat was having a dream. His students were watching him. And he was laughing and then crying. Right? He was crying and then laughing. And then they saw these sparks coming out of his forehead. And he woke up and they going like, what was going on? He says, I was with God. And I was going, God, please. My life is so hard. I'm so bloody poor. Can you do something about my mazel? I need more money. Okay? I want more money. Right? Okay? So God says, well, I could reconfigure the entire system, the entire creation, like picture it as if I made a dough, a big dough, and I cut it all up and I made challahs, 15 million challahs, okay? And then it's all braided and ready to be baked, okay? And then here comes Rabbi Eliezer, and he says, I need another mazel. Can I switch? Can I get another mazel? Mazel means flow, right? It means like your prosperity, So God says, well, I can take all these 15 million doughs, mix it all into one dough, and cut it out again, and then maybe you'll end up in a better mazel. Maybe. All that, maybe, he says. All that and just maybe? Yeah. Because, okay. How have I lived to have so he's, that's why he was crying. So he says, okay, how many years have I lived so far in my life? Have I lived more than half my years? So God says, yeah, you lived more than half. So he says, okay, I'll stick with this. I'll stick with it. Don't change anything. And then God tells him, your reward in the end of days is going to be amazing. 13 rivers of this, this oil, is going to be, whatever that means, whatever that is. So that's why he was laughing and crying. And then Rabbi Eliezer ben Padat was saying, well, wait a minute. You're just going to give me 13 rivers of this? Maybe I could get somebody else's rivers? And then he goes, listen, buddy. And Hashem was pecking him on his forehead, and those were the sparks going, my cutesy little Eliezer. Funny. You're funny. Right? But the idea really was that Eliezer could not change his mazel, his upper mazel. Because his mazel was, you have to be poor and happy, and you're going to enrich people's life being in that situation. That is your mark in creation. That's your special, unique gift in creation, your unique expression. The tools that I gave you, every single thing that I've given you is it. Okay? Now, so like I said, there's things you can change. You can make moves on the chessboard, and God is going to make moves in kind. But there's always going to be that upper agenda. You will do that expression. You will make it to, there will be, how many checks or till you get to the checkmate or whatever it is. Okay? So, but the idea here is, how do we get on such, God's knowledge. Okay? We don't have an answer. Okay? It's beyond us. God's knowledge and God's unity are inseparable. They're all part of the same thing. Don't think it's like us, the way we acquire knowledge, God forbid, would acquire knowledge. And that's what he said here, okay? His essence and his being and his knowledge are all absolutely one, without any composition. Therefore, just as it is impossible for any creature in the world to comprehend the essence of the Creator and his being, so it is impossible to comprehend the essence of his knowledge, only to believe with faith, which transcends intellect and comprehension, that the Holy One, blessed be he, is completely one and unique. He and his knowledge are all absolutely one, and knowing himself, he perceives and knows all the higher and lower level beings, even unto the small worm in the sea and a minute mosquito which will be in the center of the earth. There is nothing concealed from him. This knowledge does not add multiplicity and composition to him at all, since it is merely knowledge of himself, and his being and his knowledge are all one. Okay?
So there you go, that's the answer.
Explain.
Just the answer.
Explain, Lucy. Explain.
I don't know how to put it in English, or any language, to be frank. It's kind of like, I feel like it's kind of like computer v. computer. It's not really player versus computer, because that means that the player is separate from the computer. And if we're copies of that computer, then it's computer v. computer.
So then we got a switch. Then
it's
we got a
kinda like
dilemma.
God playing himself.
Yeah. or-
So now we get into
Well,
the whole purpose of creation is called relationship,
Yeah.
and it can't be puppet.
So he's finding himself.
Relationship.
He's finding-
We'll get into that.
He's finding
We'll get into that.
Sausage.
And explaining all this, we're discussing on a physical level.
Yes.
That's when we